Hey everyone, welcome back to Shadowed Screams. Tonight we have 3 stories. All of them were submitted by viewers, real people, real experiences. All 3 have endings that I genuinely could not stop thinking about after I read them for the first time. I'll be honest with you, story 3 kept me up, so if you're watching this late at night, maybe don't, or do. You're already here. Let's get into it. Story 1, The Night Shift. I was 19 when I took the overnight security job at the warehouse on Route 9. It wasn't glamorous work. 12-hour shifts, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., walking the perimeter every 2 hours and making sure nobody broke in to steal the industrial equipment stored inside. The pay was decent for a 19-year-old with no degree and too much time on his hands. My mom wasn't happy about it. She said the place felt wrong. I told her she watched too many horror movies. She was right. I watched too few. The warehouse was enormous, about the size of 3 football fields, and almost completely dark inside, except for the emergency lighting along the floor and the little booth near the front entrance where I'd sit and watch. A grainy monitor showing 6 different camera feeds. I'd been doing it for 3 weeks without incident. Most nights I'd get through an entire season of whatever show I was streaming on my phone, do my rounds, drink bad coffee, and clock out by 8:05. On a Thursday night in late October, I was halfway through my second round of the evening when my flashlight caught something at the far end of aisle 9. There was a man standing there. He was completely still, facing the shelving unit, hands at his sides. He was wearing a gray hoodie and dark jeans. He wasn't moving, he wasn't doing anything. He was just standing there with his back to me, maybe 60 feet away. I stopped walking. My heart went from 0 to 100 in about 1 second flat. I called out, Hey, this is private property. You need to leave. Nothing. He didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't acknowledge that I'd said a single word. I called out again, louder this time. I told him I was calling the police. I actually did pull out my phone. My hands were shaking enough that I dropped it on the concrete. When I looked back up from picking it up, he was gone. Just gone. No footsteps, no sound of a door, nothing. 60 feet of empty aisle in front of me, and no sign that anyone had been there at all. I called my supervisor. He told me the motion sensors hadn't been triggered. He told me to check the cameras. I went back to the booth, pulled up the feed for aisle 9 at the timestamp. The camera showed the aisle, empty, the whole time. I told myself I'd imagined it. Trick of the light, sleep deprivation, and overactive imagination. I finished the shift. I drove home. I didn't sleep. The next Thursday, I got a call from my supervisor at around 3 p.m., a few hours before my shift was supposed to start. He told me the warehouse owner had called him. Apparently, the owner had reviewed some older footage not from the current camera system, but from a backup drive that ran on a separate recorder, one that the security company hadn't known about. In the footage from several weeks prior, before I'd started working there was a man in a gray hoodie, visible in aisle 9. He appeared in multiple recordings, always standing still. Always with his back to the camera. He told me they were able to identify the man from the footage. He had died in that warehouse 14 months earlier. A forklift accident. The incident had been ruled accidental. His name was Dennis. He had been found in aisle 9. I quit that job the same afternoon. I never went back for my last paycheck. I still think about the way he was just standing there perfectly still, hands at his sides facing the shelving unit in the exact spot where he died. I think about the fact that when I called out to him, he didn't move. And I wonder sometimes, what if he had turned around? I don't wonder for long. That was story 1. Take a breath if you need it. Story 2 comes from a woman named Rachel, who sent this in from somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. She asked that I not use her last name. I have a habit of going for late walks. I know, people always say that's how horror movies start. But I've lived in my neighborhood for 6 years, and I've always felt safe there. It's quiet, it's suburban, everyone knows everyone. I was walking on a Tuesday night in November, probably around 11 p.m. The temperature had dropped fast, and I remember thinking I should have grabbed a heavier jacket. I was about 3 blocks from my house when a car slowed down next to me. A dark sedan, I couldn't tell you the make or model. The window was already rolled down. The man inside was maybe 50, gray at the temples, ordinary looking in a way that I can't adequately describe. He had the kind of face that you'd forget immediately after seeing it. There was nothing remarkable about him at all. He said, "Rachel, your husband asked me to come get you. He said you'd be out walking." I stopped. The thing that hit me first was not the fear. It was the confusion. Because my husband was home, I had kissed him goodbye from the couch 40 minutes earlier. He was watching football. He was in his socks. He had no reason to send anyone to come get me. I said, "Excuse me?" Not because I hadn't heard him, because my brain needed time to process what was wrong with what he had just said. The man in the car smiled. He said, "It's cold tonight." He didn't want you to have to walk back alone. There are moments in life where your body understands a threat before your mind does. My legs were already moving backward before I consciously decided to run. I turned and I ran, full sprint, 3 blocks. I didn't look back once. I burst through my front door and slammed it behind me and stood in the hallway gasping. My husband came around the corner from the living room with his eyes wide. He hadn't called anyone. He hadn't told anyone I'd gone for a walk. He hadn't spoken to a single person that evening. We called the police. They took a report. They told us there had been similar incidents in surrounding neighborhoods, a man in a dark sedan targeting women walking alone at night using their names. That was what I couldn't shake. He used my name. He said it like he'd known it for a while. We never found out how. We moved out of that neighborhood 4 months later. We still don't know who he was. We probably never will. But sometimes at night, when the house is quiet, I think about the fact that somewhere out there, a man I've never met, a man I couldn't describe if I tried, knows my name, knows my neighborhood, knew that I walked alone on Tuesday nights. And I think about how close I came to getting in that car. Okay, story 2. That one is the kind of story that changes how you walk at night. If you're watching this and it resonates, trust that instinct. Whatever Rachel felt in that moment that made her run, that was the right call. Story 3 is the one I warned you about. It was submitted by a man named Thomas. He says he's been sitting on this story for 3 years and finally needed to tell someone. I understand why he waited. My grandmother passed away 3 years ago, and I was the one who cleared out her house. She had lived alone in that house for 22 years, since my grandfather died. It was a small house, kept obsessively neat, and going through her things was one of the hardest things I've ever done. She was my favorite person. In the back of her bedroom closet, behind winter coats and old shoeboxes, I found a cardboard box sealed with packing tape. It had my name written on the side in her handwriting. Just my name, nothing else. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Most were photos of me birthday parties, school plays, summer vacations, holidays. Photos I didn't know she'd taken. Photos of me as a child that I'd never seen before. It was touching. I sat on her bedroom floor and went through them one by one and I cried. And then I got to the last photograph in the box. It was a photo of me sleeping. I was in my bed, my current bed, in my current apartment, in the city I had moved to 4 years ago. I was maybe 26 or 27 years old in the photo. An adult. I could see my bedside lamp, my window, my curtains. My grandmother had never been to my apartment. I had moved there after she stopped being able to travel. She had never seen that room. She had never seen those curtains. My name was written on the box, in her handwriting, her box, her photographs. I sat in her closet for a long time. Eventually, I turned the photograph over. There was writing on the back, her handwriting again, a date about 8 months before she died, and 5 words. He comes in through the window. I have gone over every rational explanation I can think of. Someone else took the photo and gave it to her. She found it somehow. She was confused in her final year. Her mind wasn't always clear. I've talked myself into and out of every explanation 100 times. But here is what I keep coming back to. If she found that photograph, if someone gave it to her, or she came across it somehow, why did she seal it in a box with my name on it and put it at the back of her closet? Why didn't she call me? Why didn't she warn me? I changed apartments 6 weeks after finding the photograph. I have locks on every window now. I still check them before bed every single night. But sometimes, when I'm lying in the dark and the house is quiet, I think about those 5 words on the back of that photo. I think about what they mean if every rational explanation is wrong. I think about the fact that she knew. She knew enough to write it down and seal it away and leave it for me to find. And I think, what was she too afraid to say out loud? That was story 3. I'll be honest, I've read a lot of submissions since starting this channel. Most of them are unsettling, some of them are terrifying. Thomas's story is the only one I've read where I had to put my phone down and sit with it for a while before I could keep going. If you sent in a story and I haven't gotten to yours yet, I'm working through them. Keep them coming. The link is in the description. If you're new here, welcome. Don't say I didn't warn you. Like and subscribe if these stories are keeping you up at night. And if you're watching this right now, in the dark, in your bed, maybe go check your windows, just to be safe. Good night, everyone. Sleep well, if you can.